Released on the 31st of August, 2018, The Messenger is a 2D action platformer that starts on a very simple premise. Carry a scroll to the top of a mountain, and yet it ends up being one of the most subversive takes on the entire genre of 2D action platformers. The game was developed by Sabotage Studio and published by Devolver Digital, and it released to mostly critical acclaim, receiving tons of praise for its game design, art, even writing, and the game won Best Debut Indie Game at the Game Awards in 2018. And honestly, it's easy to see why this game got all the praise it did. It has great gameplay from start to finish, great storytelling, design, art, a banger soundtrack, just amazing characters, great writing, even comedy. It's a blast all the way through. If you came to this video wondering whether or not you should play this game, the answer's an easy yes. If you like platformers, pixel art, 2D action, indie games, you'll just love this game, okay? I'm sure there's something in there for you. But what exactly makes The Messenger so good? Well, I'm glad I asked, because that's what we'll be discussing today. By the way, major spoilers ahead, because I really don't know how to talk about this game without spoilers. Let's begin. The first thing that you learn to do is Cloud Step. Cloud Step lets you hit a lantern or enemy, or really any object that you can interact with mid-air, and perform an additional mid-air somersault or double jump. And while it may not seem like much on the surface, you can do this as many times as you can hit the object. And it's great. This really opens up the platforming way more. You can also purchase the ability to Cloud Step off of enemy projectiles from the shopkeeper, which makes dealing with enemies way more fun. Later on in the game, you get movement upgrades like the wingsuit and the rope dart, which really add to this ability, like the rope dart letting you latch onto lanterns so that you can Cloud Step off of them, and the wingsuit having an upgrade that allows you to attack downwards while gliding, basically letting you perform an additional Cloud Step. All of this is introduced gradually as the game goes on, so it makes it really easy to get used to and get the hang of. Plus, with some of the stuff that comes up later in this game, you're probably gonna need to master all of this. The first area of the game, the Autumn Hills, works to establish the gameplay loop for pretty much the rest of the early game. Lots of platforming, kill some enemies, maybe there's an obstacle that you can't get past and you need to go to the shopkeeper so you can get an upgrade that'll allow you to pass it. By the way, this also introduces you to the shopkeeper, more on that later. You do more platforming, you kill more enemies, and later in the level you see a 2-lantern room that leads to the level boss. This gameplay loop remains virtually the same except for the Forlorn temple, where you fall into a ditch and there's basically no level, the Bamboo Creek, where there is no boss, even after the 2-lantern room, and the Glacial Peak, where you enter the Tower of Time at the top, and there's also no boss. There are a total of about 3 free upgrades that you can receive from the shopkeeper, being the Climbing Claws, the Rope Dart, and the Wingsuit. All of these are obtained gradually as you progress through the game, with about 2 levels distance between each other, giving you time to get used to each one. And not only do all of these let you overcome additional obstacles, they also just make general platforming a lot more convenient, which is gonna become really useful later in the game. The shopkeeper also offers additional upgrades which can be purchased using this game's currency, being time shards. Some of these upgrades are pretty standard things like more health and being able to throw more shurikens. Others are movement upgrades like being able to dash underwater or perform mid-air recoveries after getting hit by an enemy projectile or something like that. And other things are things like checkpoints restoring more health, obstacles doing less damage, or enemies dropping little health orbs to heal you when they fucking die. At some point, you're probably gonna die and meet Quabble. Quabble is a one-eyed greed demon who revives you after you die, and instead of just taking a certain percentage of your currency from you like what happens in other games, Quabble will just stick around and collect time shards that you collect later, and he'll basically just do this for like a minute or until he gets bored. Quabble will also have a sarcastic death message for you every time you die. Once you beat the Tower of Time, you get transported 500 years into the future, and the game becomes 16-bit. And this is awesome. The music changes to fit the theme, all the simple sounds like the swing of your sword and the death sound change. Just everything changes and updates to fit this theme, and it looks great. But that's not even the craziest thing that happens, because once you beat the Demon General, the game completely changes in terms of mechanics, and goes from being a level-based platforming game to a Metroidvania. You gain a central hub area in the Tower of Time with a bunch of portals that let you visit old levels of the game. And through this you can explore those old levels freely, unlock new items, discover new secrets and pathways, and even find new levels. But not only that, there's also time portals in these levels that let you go back and forth between time periods, switching from 8-bit to 16-bit or 16-bit to 8-bit, and this completely changes the game. Each level's layout changes, unlocking new items, new pathways, the music changes, the sounds change, the enemies change, everything updates and changes, and the best part about this is that this happens pretty much instantly. For something like this to work, the developers essentially needed to make 2 copies of every single room, every single sound, and every single soundtrack. And this only works because of how well executed it is. And many of the game's new levels even begin utilizing this, requiring you to shift between time periods in order to progress through the various obstacles that the level puts in front of you. But that's not even the only new thing that the new levels add. Every level adds new things, like Riviera Turquoise adding bounce pads, you get to fly on Manfred the Sky Serpent, and you even get water walking boots. It's just awesome. The game also introduces you to music notes. The music notes are often either found in random spots on the map, or given as a reward for completing quest lines. There are 6 music notes you can collect throughout the game, and once you've collected all of them, it unlocks the final level of the game, the music box. The music box is quite literally the perfect finale to the game. It's a test of every single thing you've learned as you've played the game. It's difficult platforming, there's lots of enemies, lots of time switching, and there's even a difficult boss to cap this off. And this boss pretty much just builds upon everything that you've done against other bosses, which is just great. On the side of optional things, the game also has 45 power seals, which are these green things you find scattered across the game. Power seals are often hidden behind challenges and obstacles that require complete mastery of your character's movement. Like, they're fucking difficult. Once you collect all of them though, you obtain the Windmill Shuriken, which is a shuriken that stays flying as long as you don't pick it up, and it also recharges automatically, not consuming ki. Overall, this game is great mechanically, and it works by constantly innovating on itself as the game progresses, but never so quickly that the player becomes overwhelmed. Let's take a minute to talk about the game's design, because this game's design and sound is just fucking perfect. There is honestly not a single criticism I can think of how this game looks, or even how it sounds. Not to mention, they had to make 2 copies of every single sound, every single room, soundtrack, enemy, character, and it's just always great. It always looks perfect. None of it feels half-assed, and none of it feels phoned in. Everything feels like it was made with lots of love. Every area of the game is unique and beautifully designed, all the way from the vibrant forests of the Autumn Hills to the steampunkish mechanisms of the music box that move with the music of the music box. And even just some of the minor design details. Like, look at these enemies, it looks like they're jamming out to this game's banger soundtrack. Just look at these mushrooms, it looks like they're singing this game's soundtrack. Like, honestly, all of this is great. It really just comes together to make this game's world feel more alive, more vibrant. Speaking of the world, the way this game constructs its world and story is just amazing. The game often reveals information about its world to you through comedic dialogue, which honestly just makes it more engaging. This game also has plenty of visual gags, like being able to find Kolos and Sussus's skeletons, as they literally waited until death for the power thistle to grow. Or even just the reveal that Ruxton, the boss of the catacombs who appears really tall, is actually just really short. It's a nice breath of fresh air from games that take themselves really seriously and their world building really seriously. And honestly, it just works really well. I love how this game does it. A real accomplishment of this game's world building is that by the end of the game, you understand pretty much everything that the game wants you to understand about its story, history, characters. However, it does also leave some open-ended questions, like who are the Guardian Gods, and, you know, what happened before the flood? But I think now's about the time where we move on to something that also contributes to making this game really memorable. The Messenger is a game that never takes itself too seriously, and often actually makes jokes at its own expense with very meta humor and dialogue, and I love it. Like, if there's anything that makes this game especially stand out from other games in the same genre, it's this game's sense of humor, constantly throwing curveballs at you, keeping you on your toes, and even calling back to earlier events in very comedic fashions. Like, it's great. And the greatest example of this is the shopkeeper, who is also the character you're going to interact with the most. Your first interaction with the shopkeeper is where this kind of humor is established. Like, it literally begins with our character talking about how the shopkeeper's shop does not look like a shop. And then the shopkeeper just kind of says, well, I don't look like a shopkeeper. Then it kind of has the shopkeeper talk about their order and what you're supposed to do to win the game, which leads to your character saying, whoa, slow down, that's too much text for one dialogue box. Further conversations with the shopkeeper get you more meta jokes and humor, like a reference to Ninja Gaiden. In every area, once you've exhausted all of the shopkeeper's dialogue, there's the option for the shopkeeper to tell you a story, which usually leads to the shopkeeper telling you a children's story that has absolutely nothing to do with the game. But honestly, these stories are hilarious. Like, there's one about death being trapped in a pear. This game has no shortage of funny characters or curveballs that it can throw at you using those characters. Take the village elder, for example. After you enter the dark caves and realize that you can't see shit in there, and you talk to the village elder about it, he talks about needing astral tea in order to expand our mind and obtain the power of true sight. And he gives you a seed for astral tea leaves and sends you on a quest to grow them. Once you get back to him with the grown astral tea leaves, he drinks the tea and talks about how much joy it brings him. He then thanks you and wishes you luck, to which you remind him, weren't you supposed to use that to expand my mind? So the elder apologizes for forgetting and bestows you the power of true sight, or an ordinary wax candle. Or there's the boss fight with the Emerald Golem, where you enter the arena and fight the Emerald Golem. And after destroying the Emerald Golem and defeating the spirit inhabiting it, you realize that it was all just a big misunderstanding. And even outside of that, there's little reoccurring jokes in the game, like the Artificer always being really excited about doing the thing, or callbacks to earlier events, like when the shopkeeper forgives you for saying their shop doesn't look like a shop. Honestly, this game just has so much in terms of comedic writing that I would be here forever if I was trying to go over all of it. Each character in this game is fun and memorable, with their own unique look, personality, dialogue, all those kinds of things. Even the different blue robes are distinct from each other, simply because of how their sprites are made. This game is honestly just great in terms of writing and comedy. There's not really anything I could complain about, so Overall, The Messenger is a great game that starts off seemingly very simple and then expands on itself, allowing for a truly unique and memorable experience. Now, this game might not be for everyone, but I guarantee if you like 2D platformers or Metroidvanias, there's something in here for you. That's all I really have for today though, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Big shout out to my 2 channel members. We've got Hyperius, who has been supporting this channel for over a year now, and we've also got Kibakins, who has just started supporting this channel. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and helping me make these videos. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. It's about time I moved on to Sabotage Studios' next game, Sea of Stars. Okay, with how long it's taken me to play this video, I've already played part of it, so, bye.